Jim Geraghty of National Review and the Washington Post joins me. Jim, I want to appreciate the editors for getting a podcast out yesterday. I kind of listened to it, but I was staggering around when it played and I fell asleep, so I got to listen to it again. Collect for me your thoughts now that we are 36 hours after the tsunami and the wreckage on the beach is mostly legacy media and the pollsters.
First of all, Hugh, if you fell asleep, was that because I wasn't on the podcast? And this is your subtle shot
have no
at my
idea.
colleague?
I can't remember the podcast. I know I turned it on and I fell asleep. Okay. I was so exhausted.
I actually was not on that one. I did tape a 3 martini lunch and another one for later in the week with Greg. But like all of us were up till like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. So everybody was dragging. I also want to thank the excellent publisher of National Review for choosing to have a lunch meeting yesterday.
What? Are they out of there?
But we all showed up, by the way. We're all dragging, but generally good spirits. I think, even if you're never Trump like myself, you woke up Wednesday morning and realized Kamala Harris is never going to be president of the United States. And There's going to be a Republican Senate, and it really looks like there's going to be a Republican House, maybe even a slightly expanded Republican House by a couple of seats.
Well, what's the deal on that? What's the news on that? Because I can't make heads nor tails out of the majority.
Yeah, so it looks like, by my count, there's like 3 that the Republicans have picked up, 2 that Democrats have picked up. Nobody's said a lot of, oh, wow, this one really jeopardizes Republican House. But I too, my ability to do math is really not great when I'm operating on minimal sleep, and that's what everybody's been doing since election night. Like, the word from Republicans is they expect to have control of the House. You can tell from the body language of Mike Johnson, he fully expects to remain being Speaker. A good point by my colleagues in the corner pointing out, I suspect, look, the House is never going to be easy to run, and we're certainly not in the range where you have a large enough majority where Mike Johnson's job is going to be easy. But with Trump in the White House, as the odds of huge Republican infighting are lessened, not eliminated. I mean, there are going to be disagreements, but the idea of their, once Trump says, hey, I really want this bill passed, you're going to see most House Republicans fall in line and say, okay, let's get this bill passed, or maybe we can make 1 or 2 tweaks and, get to 280.
Now, Jim, you mentioned it, so I want to ask you, you're never Trump and you've never been shy about that, but your analysis has never been impacted by that. Are you going to be able to call balls and strikes on success? I am. I'm Trump skeptical, and I'm here to tell you, if he does something, if he puts a tariff on Canada on maple syrup, I'm going to be denouncing it. And if he doesn't 10%. Do the Navy buildup, I'm going to be saying where. Do you think you can get to the objectivity that you've always had for the second term?
Yeah. By the way, I can hear Hugh Hewitt listeners screaming at their radios right now, saying that Jim is a never Trump SOB. He's never been objective. And if you want to say I've never been objective, fine. Objective means you don't have opinions about that which you're covering. I've always tried to be fair. I've always tried to be,
yes.
And when Trump was president, when he did something I liked, I gave him an attaboy. The defense buildup, the tax cuts, the judicial nominations, right to try, criminal justice reform. I could find a lot of stuff in the Trump administration's policies that I liked. And each time they did it, I said, hey, you know what? Good for you, Mr. President. Good for you, Republicans. This is going to move the country in the right direction. When Trump did stuff I didn't like, January 6th, Stop the Steal, all the bombast, all of the stupid fights he got into, all the number of times he would jump on Twitter or Truth Social and rant about what was said on him on cable news. I just don't think the president of the United States should be losing sleep over what Mika Brzezinski said.
But Jim, my question isn't that. My question is, you've avoided the trap of sunk costs. Some never Trumpers will never get out of that deep mine. Do you think they will? I mean, it's a pretty massive applause for him, and the resilience is remarkable. And Jack Smith gave up yesterday.
One of the things I've wanted to see, like one of my gripes with Trump, or one of the frustrating consequences of Trump, is the effect he had on his opponents and the degree to which they believe, well, he's Satan, therefore we can do whatever we need to do in order to beat him. Whether that's in lawfare, whether that's in, comparing him to Hitler, whether that's, all that kind of stuff. So I
shooting him.
Yeah, there's that. Don't do that, America. Stop shooting at presidential candidates. But the idea that you can, okay, this has been such a rebuke of the Democratic Party. such a rebuke of whatever term you prefer to use, wokeism, progressivism, hard left liberalism, however you want to characterize it, that this has been a terrible mistake for the country. The consequences in immigration policy have been bad. The consequences in crime have been bad. Consequences for the economy have been bad. Inflation, consequences around the world have been bad. Right? And we're starting to hear it in these coming days. Hey, Joe Biden was a really bad president. Hey, Kamala Harris was not a good vice president. In fact, she probably wasn't that good a presidential candidate either. Although keep an eye, like she's probably still going to end up with like the third or fourth most votes of all time. But we'll discuss that another time. The idea that like maybe you have to recognize the country is not what you thought it was, and
Amen.
A president you don't like is capable of doing things you do like. And I think if you have I think Kirsten Gillibrand proudly said she voted against every nominee, including James Mattis.
Yeah. That is very well put. Yeah. People you don't like can do things you do like. And please, to the Never Trump world, Jim doesn't do this, but this is for the other Never Trumpers out there. You don't have to declare your priors in every column and every appearance. You really don't have to. You don't. Look forward like Jim does. Thank you, Jim.